evening, everyone, and welcome to the studios of Grafton TV, located at 26 Providence Road. And this is Meet the Candidate. I'm Bob DeToma. And tonight's guest is Anne-Marie Foley. She's currently serving on the Open Space and Recreation Committee and also has a position on the ARPA Fund Committee. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You doing well?
Yeah.
And you are running for Select Board.
I am.
But before we get to that, this is your opportunity to kind of tell the people in town who don't know you, about your life, your experiences. So why don't we start with the simple stuff? You're not from around here, are you?
Not originally, no. I've lived in Grafton for 30 years, but if you want to, depending on how far back you want to go.
Sure, why not?
I grew up, I've been to many different places. I lived in Ireland for a couple of years, but primarily I grew up in Canada, in Toronto, between Vancouver and Toronto. And I went up there in grade 2. I was there, we call it grades, till grade 13. And then I decided to come down here to go to college. So I went to Boston University for my undergrad. Why I came down here at the time, my parents had to pay 40% more on the dollar. Not entirely sure. I just had this little notion in my mind that I wanted to come down to the States for college. So I landed in Boston, and I've been here ever since '84, I guess that was when I moved down.
Did you live in Toronto proper or in the burbs?
Just outside of Toronto, a town called Rexdale is where I grew up. So about 40 minutes, similar to here to Boston, I suppose.
Okay.
So yeah, for most of, I feel like that was, that's kind of where I'm from. I've certainly been here longer now than I was there, but I still have a lot of friends up there. I have family in Vancouver, and the rest of my family's in Ireland, for the most part.
Wow.
Yeah. My parents are both from Ireland.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you visited Ireland, it was because you were staying with family, not because you were going on a...
Yes.
Because you were just going on to tour, okay.
Yeah, yep, I've been there quite a bit. I'm actually dual citizen, American and Irish. So yes, I haven't been there now in a good few years, but hoping maybe this year I'll be able to get back over there. So I still have just cousins now. I don't have any aunts and uncles anymore. My mom was the youngest of 7, so my parents are still alive, thank goodness, but she's the last of her generation, yeah.
I've been to Toronto. I think it's a great city. I loved it.
It is a great city. It's very cosmopolitan, right?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of different...
And really diverse.
Exactly. Very, very diverse. Even when I was there, which now I feel like, was quite some time ago, and a lot of little pockets there. And then, of course, a lot of people here have been to Montreal, which English-speaking Canadians we're not all that jazzed by the Quebecois necessarily. However, nice way of putting it. However, I will say, Montreal is great, Quebec City, and that's a more direct shot from here for sure.
Sure. Okay. So now that we get the travel out of the way.
Yeah.
So what have you done in your life? What careers have you pursued? What have you been successful at?
So I'm a physical therapist by training, and I've been a PT since I graduated from BU. I've worked in a number of different facets in the profession, but before we got married, I was working in Braintree Hospital, which is kind of the story of how I ended up here in Grafton. But so I worked in inpatient rehab on a head injury unit. I've been in hospital administration, and then I was in administration for a while. I had my kids and decided that it was kind of a lot, especially I was commuting back and forth. So I ended up starting my own private practice. So I've had a private practice for about 25 or 26 years now.
Here in town?
So it's based here in town. It's based in my house, and actually I have PTOT and speech therapy services, but we service individuals. So the administrative portion of it is in my house, but we go to day programs and group homes all over Central Mass and kind of expanding to Southborough, Sturbridge, all the way to like Wrentham and down to North Attleboro. So it's a big need for that population. So it's basically adults 22 and over with intellectual disabilities and various physical disabilities that I serve in, like I said, group homes. So basically, back in the 70s, it was the Grafton State Hospital, which we now see exposed, which is amazing. A number of my individuals came out of facilities like that. So back when we went through this deinstitutionalization, getting the individuals out into the communities, which is great. We have a lot of group homes actually here in town that some people may or may not know about, which is good as well. They, kind of blend in. And so those are the folks that I serve.
Did you pursue physical therapy with speech therapy?
No, so I have PTOT and speech therapists that work for me.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a physical therapist, so I'm still out working full-time doing that, but then I have other therapists that kind of subcontract from me.
Okay, I was going to say, I had never heard somebody combine the two
Yeah, I was thinking you were going to ask because there's not a lot of folks that come out of PT school with kind of going a neuro route or with this type of route. So yeah, just my career kind of took me that path. A lot of PTs come out, outpatient orthopedics is kind of more your standard fare. But
Okay.
and most recently I taught at Mass College of Pharmacy in the DPT program.
In
I was there
Worcester?
for
Okay.
I taught there just as an adjunct, part-time for 5 or 6 years, but I've just given that up recently. It's a little bit too much.
So doing this line of work from home in private practice, you must do reams of paperwork. I mean, you take insurance and...
That's, yeah. No, the great thing, part of the reason I got out of it, I was in hospital administration, and that's what was getting hard, was that the insurance companies were kind of starting to dictate our practice. And as an administrator, I was having to pass that on to the therapists that work for me, right? And it got to a point where I just didn't feel comfortable with what I needed to do, I suppose. And so I started this. And in fact, we don't do any insurance billing, so it's fabulous. So it's somewhat similar to I've not worked in a nursing home, but I think similar to that, where it's per capita. The agency gets X amount, the rate, per individual. And in that rate, they're mandated to provide physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy services, nursing, behavioral, all those things. So I get to see folks for as little or long time as I want. It's fabulous. I do a lot of specialized equipment, wheelchair ordering, that type of thing. Most of my individuals are fairly complex in terms of their needs. But yeah, the only insurance, I do deal with insurance with getting durable medical equipment, but outside of that, I don't have to worry about insurance. So it's a great niche in that respect.
Wow.
I know. I'm thankful.
That seems like quite a...
It's been great in terms of being a clinician and getting to do, exactly, not that I shouldn't, and I don't want to say that therapists out there dealing with insurance are not doing what they want to do and making, good decisions and providing good care. But it is handy not to have that pressure of,
Sure.
I got 6 visits and now I have to apply for another 6 visits. You have to show gains, those types of things. So, yeah, I'm thankful. It's been great.
Okay. So you serve on the ARPA fund, and
Yep, I'm
you
currently
also serve on open space, but we'll start with ARPA. So and when ARPA came along, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah, so the American Rescue Plan, so all of the communities in Massachusetts, I assume across the country, are getting X amount of dollars based on, a myriad of factors, of course. And so the town of Grafton was the recipient of quite a substantial amount of money. And so a committee was formed, and I'm the only at-large member on that committee. And I had heard about it. I always tune into select board meetings, whether I'm there in person or I'm listening at home. This whole Zoom thing made that handy because we could just put it on at home and walk around. But I heard something about the ARPA money coming in, and it piqued my interest because I thought it would be a great opportunity to potentially fund some needs, for sure, that in town, and then maybe, do some other things that we might not otherwise have the opportunity to do. So we've had, I think we started meeting, I probably should have looked this up before I came, but
It was 2 or 3 meetings.
yeah, I think we might have started to meet, in November or December or thereabouts. And so we've made some headway. We've hired a consultant to come in, primarily because the paperwork end of it is going to be quite complex. And we've made some decisions on some of the money, and now we're going to do some outreach to the town, to the community, for those maybe fun things that, maybe we'll see what we end up coming up with. But it's a great opportunity for the town to kind of check off some things off the list, and then, like I said, potentially make some other decisions that we might not have be able to.
So,
Sorry.
no, not at all. So are you working within constraints and guidelines? I mean,
Yes, yeah, there's some specific constraints and guidelines. However, they have been opened up a little bit recently, so Evan, the town administrator, is, really keeping more abreast of all of that than I am. But certainly at our last meeting, he came in, and so initially there were certain criteria, certain, areas that you could address, and now they're making that a little bit broader as they're going along. I think it's just like the CARES Act. I mean, even when people were getting pandemic unemployment and so on and so forth, there's some complaints out there, but it was one of those things where they being the government, everyone is figuring this out as they go, right? So it's changing and evolving, and I think that's fine. It can be frustrating, I guess, to some people, but who knew? Who knew 3 years ago?
Sure.
Right, yeah.
So you're also on open space and recreation.
Yes.
And
yeah.
how often do they meet? Once a month?
We meet once a month, yep. Dave Robbins is the chair, I'm the vice chair, and that also is a relatively new committee. I had, heard about that, kind of, listening to another meeting. That's been my, my bread and butter in town. I've done a lot of work in terms of open space and recreation, so I thought that that would be a natural fit for me when I heard about it. And essentially what we're doing is another committee did the brunt of the work. It's not a master plan, but it's a huge document that they worked years on, in terms of looking at, what we need, what we might be able to do, and then delegating that. What we're doing right now is then delegating those action items to committees. Most of the committees are in place. Maybe it's Conservation Commission, maybe it's Grafton Land Trust. And then what we are talking about is maybe a couple of new committees, which I am in support of, one being a Trails Committee, where we could look at, streamlining. So we have Grafton Land Trust, we have Conservation, a couple of things like, and then just maybe having somebody that's overseeing all of that. We mentioned it to the select board, but we haven't gone that far quite yet. And then another one would be looking at just open space in general. So what's available in town, or what's potentially going to be available, so that we're not always kind of behind the eight ball when land comes up, that we already know, let's see the big picture. And some land is purely, definitely development. That could be a gem for something else. So that's actually a committee that I had recommended. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to move that forward. There's other folks in town that are looking at that, but all from different angles. There's planning, there's recreation, so on and so forth. But maybe just one committee or group that's just looking at all of the land that's, it's currently owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to your hopes to be elected to the select board, and what triggered your idea to do that?
Yeah. I've had folks encourage me over the years to run, and I think right now I felt that I professionally and personally I was able to tackle something like the select board. I've been engaged for all of the years, even in, I was on recreation a long time ago when my kids were young, for 10 years. My husband was on finance committee for 10 years back then, and then we kind of had a little lull, when the kids were at various ages. But even still, I was always involved in something or other. So I just feel like the time is right now that I kind of take this step and look at going on the select board. I'm engaged. I've always been engaged. I've contributed to the town in many different ways, and I just think that this will be a new way for me to contribute, and hopefully in a positive way, and looking at moving Grafton forward.
So your dream comes true, and you're seated on the select board. What's job one for you? What do you most want to get involved in?
Well, in terms of getting involved in, I think I will go in. I'm excited to be involved in all of it. My first job, even before getting elected, is getting more and more information. I feel like I have some institutional knowledge just from being in town. I go to town meetings religiously. I've always voted, those types of things, but there's a lot, to learn, no doubt. I would like to try to get up there and meet with department heads and, get a feel for what's going on in the town hall, separate from, constituents' issues, but let's see how the mood is up there and how things are working. And then I'm going to reach out straight away. I mean, I'm already reaching out to people. You tell me, I know that there are some things obviously that are hot topic items right now. Developments, affordable housing, open space, some of those things. But I'm excited to look at all of it. And I think that my first job will be to sit there, listen, take it in, learn, and then start to try to form my opinions and votes and views based on taking in a lot of information.
Well, I can take one thing off your list. I mean, if you walk around the municipal center now,
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, the spirit and the mood seems to be pretty lighthearted. But
Good, good.
You form your own opinions.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just occurred to me that when you said you wanted to form your opinions, you would be the only person running for office in the history of the world who's running for office and doesn't have an opinion. So you.
Some would say that I definitely have opinions, but in this realm, for example, the open space, the ARPA committee, that would actually be a better example. That, I walked into the room, I understand the concept and whatnot, but there's a lot of different players, right? There's school, there's HVAC, there's water runoff,
Oh, yeah.
DPW, a lot of different things
Never
that,
ends.
yeah, so do I have opinions about all that? Not yet, but I need to learn about it. So there's, I'd say that, no, I think I'm pretty open for the most part, and I am more than willing to do the work and then try to figure out where I fit or where I think that the town will fit. And certainly I have a vested interest in the town, right? I have nothing but, I just want the town to succeed and to have a good future forward, so.
So people that you know, people who support you, people who encouraged you to run, so someone must have said, Anne Marie, I need you to focus on blank.
Oh, no. I mean, I met with a couple of gals this weekend, actually. That were younger, younger than me. And it was interesting to talk to them about, where they are, where that generation, that kind of 30-something generation is in their lives and what the challenges are. Because I also wanted to focus on engagement. I go to town meeting, and every year it seems to dwindle a little bit more and more, right? So how do we engage people back in? What was it that caused us all to be involved, way back then? And so what I learned was, time, right? They're parents, they have their careers, and they just feel, stretched for time and whatnot. So I think that would be something that I would try to work on anyways, and trying to, bring people into the fold, whether it means that they're just voting or it means that they're actually, being more engaged. Sorry, I got circumvented there. I might have not answered your question.
No.
Okay.
You can ask the guys in the booth. If I think somebody's trying to dodge it, I just keep talking. But anyway, so yeah, it is a concern that so many people just want to push away from the table and let somebody else do it. And it's also a concern because how do you get people to re-engage when everybody's at each other's throats right now? And that's probably the biggest challenge anybody could face.
It's the biggest reason I'm running, to be honest. I've been here for a while. I've been here for 30 years. I've worked with a lot of town administrators over the years in various capacities. I've worked with a lot of the select boards over the years. I've seen, some great things, some not so great things, and I think that yes, we need to try to look at the tone, and it's almost like national politics, a little bit right now. So I want to get away from that, or I want to help us get away from that, I suppose. I'm obviously not going to be able to do it.
You're the peacemaker.
Canada. No.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity to address the folks at home and talk to them, say what you need to say, and possibly even ask for their vote, which is, I'm sure, why we're all here. And that's your camera right there.
Okay,
So
well,
take
thank
it
you.
away.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you to your staff for all that you guys do. And thank you for your time at home for watching this. I guess the first thing I want to do is just encourage everyone to make sure that they are registered to vote. So the date for that is April 19th. So you have plenty of time to register to vote. It would be great to get as many people out for this election as we can get. There's 2 contested races as far as I know, just school committee, and select board, which I also think is a great thing. You all have choices, for both of those committees. So all the more reason to get out and voice your opinion. So first off, make sure that you are registered. If you have kids over 18 in the house, get them registered as well. And then secondly, go out and vote on May 17th. Polls are open from 8 until 8. And I think you should look up, in terms of your district, there might have been a little bit of changes with the districting, but that would be available on the clerk's website, I think, through the town. I hope that you vote for me. You consider voting for Anne Marie Foley for Select Board. I have been here for a while. I have some historical, knowledge. However, I am more focused on moving our town forward in a positive way. I'm interested in engaging people, bringing people back in and getting them involved. I'm interested in diversity, and I will certainly sit on that board. I will do the homework. I will make sure that I am knowledgeable about all of the issues, and I will certainly do my very, very best to always vote in support of Grafton and in support of moving us forward in a positive direction. So thank you again, and thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I
Thanks.
really appreciate the
Thank you.
chat.
Thanks.
Anne Marie Foley is running for Select Board here in Grafton. And on behalf of all of the talented people who work here at Grafton Community Television, this has been Meet the Candidate. Thank you for watching. I'm Bob Totoma.